when your diet is going so well and then you just give up or you mess up, I want you to learn what I'm going to teach you today. You keep falling off track because your brain thinks progress is dangerous. And I know that's a very weird thing to say or to hear from a weight loss coach, but it could just be the missing piece of the weight loss puzzle for you. So have you ever had a good week, like a genuinely good week, right? Maybe you prepped all your food, you felt in control, the scale moved, and then by Thursday, you found yourself standing around the kitchen counter eating the things that you don't even really like, straight out of the packet, and wondering how on earth you got there because you had such great intentions. It was all going so well and you were loving your results and you were really genuinely pleased that you had these results, right? But then something switched. Or maybe you've been really consistent for 2, maybe 3 weeks. People are noticing, you're feeling it, and then out of nowhere, you have one meal that goes maybe off plan, and somehow that turns into a whole week of eating everything in sight. Or maybe you get back from a holiday, you had a great time, you're feeling motivated, or it's a Sunday night, it's at the end of a month, and then tomorrow you're planning all of the best intentions and it goes well. And day 2 goes really well as well. But then day 3, Wednesday happens, Wednesday comes along, something happens, maybe you're tired, maybe work is stressful, right? Maybe nothing happens at all, and then you just stop. Then you spend the next week beating yourself up for not being able to keep going. If any of this sounds remarkably familiar, then obviously you are not alone. Yes, I am in your head, but this is a very common practice that women get stuck in, and it's this loop that we get stuck in. So I want you to imagine the old school TV shows where there was a contestant attached to a bungee cord and they had to run against it to get to a target. Maybe there was like a prize at the end of it. But as they run and run and run, this bungee cord gets really, really tight. And then what happens is it gets to a point where the contestant can't run anymore. And so the bungee cord pings them back to the start, to the goal post, right? Or to the starting post. Now, usually, just out of their reach at the end of that is a prize, right? And every time they run for the prize, they're just inches away from grabbing it, but they give in against the bungee cord because that's too tight, right? You're going, you feel like you're going to win, but then it gets too hard and you can't go anymore, and then suddenly you're pulled back to home base. That's what the bungee does. It's designed to bring you back to where it was anchored, where it's not stretched and where you can sit comfortably. But now I want you to imagine that the anchor of that bungee is the you right now, right? That baseline, that home base, that's the life, the behaviors, the habits, the people, the way you eat, the stories you tell yourself. That's everything that makes up the version of you right now. The version of you that is getting the results that she doesn't want, right? That is the version of you that you keep repeating over and over again. It's the version of yourself you've probably known for years, the one who struggles with food, with cravings, the one who's always falling off track, who can do it for a while, but never really permanently, right? So every time you stretch away from that version of you, that cord pulls tight. You make progress for a while, then it gets taut. And it brings you back home. And that's what I call the bungee effect. And it's the reason that for most women, the problem isn't actually food at all. It's that they are always reaching that maximum point, that maximum stretch point, and thinking that something is wrong because it's difficult then. Okay? So research shows us that habit formation takes about, on average, 66 days. But moreover, more importantly, the biggest predictor of whether that behavior sticks long term is actually if that behavior is consistent with how you see yourself. So that's your home base, right? So if the behaviors that you're taking after 66 days, if you don't believe that you are capable of achieving that long term, you will always get pulled back to where you believe you are, who you currently are. So let me say that again in a different way, right? Your biggest predictor of having a habit that sticks is if you change that post that you are attached to. This is like the fake it till you make it kind of phrase, but it's on a deeper level. So when a client of mine came to me after 25 years of weight struggles, she was working 12-hour days, managing cardiovascular diagnosis, genuinely trying everything that she could think of. And the reason nothing had stuck wasn't really about the fact that she wasn't putting in enough effort. She had enormous effort. It was that every time she made progress, some part of her brain was being stretched like that bungee cord. The new results, the attention, that's unfamiliar. It was unfamiliar and unsafe. And it wasn't her home base at all. So the cord kept pulling her back to home base. So you might have experienced the same thing where you've had a really good day of eating and then about 9 p.m., maybe you're not even hungry, right? You've had dinner, the kids have gone to bed, but you find yourself in the kitchen opening the cupboard, your head is stuck in there and you're not looking for anything in particular, it's anything that jumps out, right? Maybe it's the fourth time that you put your head in the cupboard hoping that magically something reappears like a magician's hat. You're just looking. That could be the cord pulling you back, right? Or maybe you could be out to dinner with friends and you order something that you want. Maybe it's plant-based and maybe it's a low-calorie option. Great. And it arrives, it looks good. But then your friends, they order chips or they order starter, they order a dessert, they order unlimited margaritas. And now suddenly you're going, I kind of want that. Or maybe I'll just have a couple, right? And then you eat half our chips and then you feel probably annoyed at yourself for the rest of the evening, right? That is the cord. Maybe you're on a roll and it's been a great few weeks and your partner says, hey, you look really good. And something about hearing that makes you just feel weird, maybe uncomfortable. Like too much attention is on you, or maybe you might get too much attention. So that night you might eat more than you have done in weeks. Again, that's the cord. So while we call it self-sabotage, the act of giving in or giving in against what your promises were or what your goals are, it's actually a form of self-protection. So imagine fighting that bungee cord at its maximum pull, right? That's hard. It's hard to keep that momentum, that strength, that power to keep going and break that bungee cord when you're not seeing any respite, when you're not seeing any even results coming from that. Continuing the growth past that hard place is breaking through into unfamiliar territory. And your brain doesn't want unfamiliar. It wants normal. It always wants normal. It always wants safe, right? It doesn't know how to cope emotionally, how to cope socially, how to diet when life actually feels overwhelming. Or when you're out in social situations, because it will revert to safety, normality. What it knows is best, but what it knows is best is not actually best for your goals. So the problem is your brain's version of normal is still stuck in the old version of you, the version of you that is stuck, the version of you that is struggling with her weight, with her health, with her hormones, right? Is struggling with her energy. But your brain will always revert back to that version of you because it is the most lived in, it is the most safe, it is probably just the most current version of you. But the thing is you won't know that when you're in it, right? You won't know that you're about to self-sabotage to bring you back to that version of your home base. You won't know what those actions look like because they're silent, they're invisible. They're so sneaky, right? And they go almost totally unmissed if you aren't specifically watching out for them. That's why in my program, that's why in Her Rise, we celebrate self-sabotage. Sometimes clients are like, oh no, I don't want to come to this session, that like secretly. oh, I don't want to come because, I've done something wrong, I've messed up, I've gone off plan, only to come into the session, they tell me what's happened, and we're having a freaking party because they've reached an inevitable barrier, right? They've reached that place where they are growing so much that their identity is like, whoa, what is going on here? And this is a positive thing. But the problem is when people are just on a diet plan and it doesn't go to plan, or this self-sabotage or this self-protection mechanism kicks in, they see that as a flaw. They see it as a failure, right? But in my program with me, we celebrate the shit out of it because it is a beautiful part of transformation. The breakdown happens before a breakthrough. Right? The bungee cord, it is silent, it is invisible. We don't know that it's there. But when self-sabotage happens, the invisibility cloak comes off and we can now see, oh, hang on a minute, that was where the ceiling was, right? That was where my comfort zone barrier was, right? Remember, the only reason why you gave up or gave in is because you are actually pushing your limits to the max. You are pushing your boundaries, your comfort zone. So you see how we are changing this failure and mistakes from something that's bad into something that's actually really freaking positive. How many of you know any diet program that actually celebrates your failures, right? Because they are a sign of success. And what's on the other side of comfort, right? What's on the other side of comfort? If you are reaching your comfort zone, the other side is growth. It's success, right? We know that, what is the saying? Growth is on the other side of comfort zone, or you don't grow within your comfort zone, right? We all know that. So the breakdown will happen right before the breakthrough. We have to break down, or we're about to break down right before we break through. And sometimes in that breakdown era, it could be a matter of hours, days, weeks, okay? But if you see that difficult phase as something that is wrong, and typically we will see that, it's something is wrong, this is difficult, this is too hard, then we give up, right? And the problem is now you're back to square one, you're back to home base, you're not fighting against that bungee cord, right? So because these actions are so stealthy, it's really important to look out for the telltale signs that self-protection is about to happen. So I'm going to share with you the 5 top signs that you are about to break through. If you keep pushing through, you might achieve that next level. So the first one is procrastination, right? Putting off tasks or goals that often stems from fear of failure, fear of success, or that discomfort. So this delay can actually prevent you from achieving your full potential. And that reinforces a cycle of, well, I can't do it. If I put it off, then it's not going to happen, then I can't do it. And that comes from this identity of someone who doesn't succeed, or who is the version of you, not the version of you who, if she didn't procrastinate, then she would get the results, right? Your brain is just like, I don't know who that is. The second one is perfectionism. Right? Setting impossibly high standards can lead to this fear of starting or completing things, because we might have this fear that it's never going to be good enough, right? Or that we're not going to succeed and we're going to fail, and failure is embarrassing. So perfectionism often masks a fear of criticism or not even being accepted by all of the effort that you've gone through. Number 3 is comfort zone clinging. I know I kind of mentioned it, but staying within that comfort zone. If you notice that something is uncomfortable and it makes you feel that I'm not too sure if this is going to work, or if this is the right thing. That comfort zone is your alarm bells. Like, that is the biggest alarm bell that you can see, right? If you see that you are about to push through that barrier, that is a perfect sign for you to continue, right? So staying within the comfort zone, even when it leads to dissatisfaction, is a form of resistance to change. So this limits growth. It keeps you in an unfulfilling situation, right? The body, the health, the life that you live in. Now, this can be applied to weight, your career, relationships, work, right? Personal habits. It can apply to any of those. Number 4, or whatever one we're on, people pleasing. So we often seek approval and prioritize other people's needs above our own. So you might see that you are on a diet, a program, a plan for maybe a couple of weeks, you're seeing success, and now all of a sudden, a couple of weeks in, suddenly other people's priorities are more important than yours. Suddenly you've bunked yourself down to the bottom of that priority list, right? Suddenly your goals don't matter. That's not them. That's got nothing to do with them. That's not got nothing to do with them asking you at all, because you can always say no. You can always put yourself first. However, your subconscious brain will be going, oh, that's more important than your goals, because we want to stay stuck, okay? This is an opportunity for you to lean into where you start noticing that you are prioritizing other people's needs above your own. And that can come from a fear of rejection, of maybe a need for validation as well. So these things are quite deep, right? That is why starting a new plan isn't going to work, because if you keep repeating these behaviors, it doesn't matter what plan you're stuck on or trying, because you're going to keep repeating these behaviors. And number 5, self-medicating or avoidance, right? Escaping through distractions like overeating, overdrinking, excessive social media, any other behaviors that can provide temporary relief, but ultimately delay addressing the actual deeper issue at hand. That is going to inhibit your long-term progress. So the next time things are going well for a few days, a few weeks, or a few months, but then suddenly it's not, I want you to become hyper aware of that bungee cord and start to watch out for that telltale behavior that might be pulling you back to home base, because success is scary because it's unknown. We don't know what to do with all that attention that we might get. We don't know how we're going to act as a healthy person or as someone who weighs 100 pounds less. That's a totally different version of you. You don't know how she reacts. You don't know how other people will react to you. You don't know what your social life would look like, what your calendar life would look like. A lot of people are actually deeply intrinsically scared that with losing a lot of weight, they have to now take on a lot more responsibility, right? And we see our responsibility or our workload, our to-do list now, and we can think that in the unknown, in being healthier and lighter, you actually have more responsibility. So that's a sense of overwhelm that's going to keep you stuck, right? So as soon as you start seeing progress, something in your subconscious is going to be like, nah, let's stay stuck. And it's going to pull you back with that bungee cord, right? Remember, the plan was working for a while, right? There wasn't a problem until there was a problem. So, of course, if you're working with an unsustainable approach, right, it could be a genuine problem with the program. I see this quite a lot, right? Women are focused on trying to diet. They're not focused on improving their health. So as a repercussion of focusing on a diet, they choose unsustainable methods, which is like 9 times out of 10. So if you've chosen an unsustainable program, unsustainable approach, then yes, there's probably going to be problems with that as well. But if you exhibit the same on-off cycles, if you notice the same self-sabotaging or self-protection mechanism and actions and behaviors and thoughts that keep coming up, and it's the same kind of excuses, it's the same reasons, right? You might think of them as excuses. Oh, I'm making all of these excuses, but I know that I should just do it, right? If you say something like that, if you say, oh, well, it's just, I come up with all these excuses as to why I should do all these things, then listen to those. They're not excuses. There's a message in there that your brain, your subconscious is trying to convey. Listen, because it's telling you something, right? So if these cycles are always happening, then it could be that you are actually breaking down before you broke through every single time, okay? So if you want to go deeper if you're really at the point where you're so sick and tired of being stuck on this hamster cycle, you're trying to find the sustainable approach, you don't know what that looks like, maybe you're using the same excuses time after time after time, you want to figure out how to move past that, I have a free 5-day plant-powered challenge where we go deep and uncover what holds you back, and I share with you the exact path and roadmap that my clients take to get to their results, to get to their goals. So the link will be in the comments, and it's completely free, right? And it's a great place to start building a new baseline to come back to. That's if you come back to it. And if you want to talk to me directly about what's going on for you, you can book an if call. It's just a call with me to see if I can help you and if you'd like to work with me. And if we are a good match, we'll just book in another call. We'll talk in depth about your challenges, your goals, and which, if any program or package would be best suited for you. So it's just a conversation, no pressure, just give you some clarity and direction. So again, I'll drop that link in the description. Thank you so much for being here. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this today. It is never your fault. It is typically always the way that you are wired. It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility to change. We can't sit back and wait for the world to fall in our laps and give us everything that we need, because change happens from within. Guys, you cannot change patterns and behaviors with a new plan. You have to change it intrinsically with the way that your brain is wired, and you get to rewire your brain. That is the beauty of neuroplasticity, and this is a huge part and parcel of why just a new plan, just trying a different dietary approach isn't going to be the thing that actually gives you the weight loss results and keeps it off, right? Something that's sustainable needs to embed things like identity, like this, right? Things like nutrition, things like your body, your nervous system and movement, things like your mindset and how you talk to yourself. It is all linked together. And when you find a program like mine, like my free challenge, when you find a program that puts all of those pieces together, that is what really solidifies all of the missing pieces of the weight loss puzzle. So if you want all of those pieces, I have a free 5-day challenge, or we can have a chat to a one-to-one conversation in an if call. So get your name on the wait list, get your name in my diary, and I will catch you guys soon. Take care.